11 tonight. Now though, this month's Crimewatch.
Tonight, the arson attack at a packed hotel in Newquay. Do you know who lit the match?
Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. We're live, and in the next 60 minutes between us, hopefully, we'll be able to crack some of the UK's most serious crimes. We've got scores of detectives just waiting to take your calls. DC Rav Wilding is here, evening Rav, with his Rogues Gallery. As well as that horrific arson attack in Newquay, we have a rape case in Nottingham dating back to 1992. We've got some strong clues. Perhaps you will recognise the rapist. And Matthew Amralawala is here with the story of how police solved a major case. What's in store tonight?
Kirsty, it's another fascinating investigation. We're looking at the Rotherham Rapist and how advances in DNA technology allowed the police to solve a case that dates back 20 years.
It's really intriguing, this one. Worth a watch. Also on tonight's show, the shocking murder of schoolgirl Shafilea Ahmed in Cheshire. There's been a lot of speculation about who murdered her. Tonight, we look at the facts and reconstruct what we know. Will you be able to shed light on the motive? Will you be able to name her killer? But first, we head to Newquay on the southwest coast. Back in August, the Penhallow hotel on the seafront was packed with mainly elderly guests. Just after midnight, most of them were in bed asleep when the place went up in flames, and this was no tragic accident. Who started it? And why?
I'll get it for you, Mum.
Oh, you've got your own, dear.
Don't be silly.
Peter was very kind to my mum. They just used to have a nice time together.
Seatbelt, Mum.
Joan? Oh, full of life, full of fun. We did everything together, shared everything.
The journey down there was horrible. Travel sick all the way there, so that was a bit of a nightmare.
Okay, Mum.
She liked the window seat, so I used to let her sit by the window, you know. The Penhallow, we went there 4 years running, and we always had rooms 48 and 49.
I'm in 49 this time. Are you in 48?
No, I'm in 50-something.
Oh.
Got to go this way.
Never mind, listen, I'll see you downstairs for tea.
OK, dear. So I had to go in a room at the back. Probably if I'd have been in 48, we could have both got out.
This particular evening, people have been out socialising and coming back after really enjoying themselves for that evening. Many of them, this was the last night of their holiday.
There was dancing in the hotel and entertainment, but not on this particular night. That's the reason we went to bed early, and we were coming home the next day.
You girls are back early. No good?
It was rubbish.
Last drinks, anyone? It must be just the fuse. Can I have the fire brigade? 19 Island Crescent.
What's the problem there, sir?
The fire alarm's gone off.
Right.
It's the Penhallow Hotel.
Any sign of fire?
Yes, I can see smoke. It's behind the bar.
This is not approved. Everybody, please exit the building. Can, please. The doors over there. Thank you. You can't go that way.
I have to get my sister.
You can't go down that way. It's too dangerous.
I'm in my nightie.
Building well alert. Make pumps 4. Repeat. Make pumps 4.
on, Mum. I'm not leaving her. I'm going for help, Mum.
She's good.
I'm going for help.
Three lovely people died. Three lovely people died. Him and his mum and Joan.
The only way I would have left my mother is if he knew he couldn't do anything for her or that my mother was dead. I don't have any doubt about that. I wish I was that brave.
I always used to say, "Good night then, Joan, see you in the morn." That was my last words to her. And that's what I said to her when she was buried. "Good night, Joan, see you in the morn."
This is the main entrance into the hotel. As we come inside here, over on this area would be the reception. And as we walk through, this would be the bar area. And then carrying on through, we've got the ballroom area here.
This fire has probably been one of the most extraordinary that I've had cause to investigate. By undertaking a layer-by-layer excavation, working with forensic scientists, we've done some 3D modelling, and from that, we know this fire started in an area behind the bar.
The area that we're interested in is the doorway that was positioned just here. This is where the fire started.
This fire spread vertically through the rear perspex roof in the store area, horizontally through the door from the bar into the reception area, main staircase, and eventually broke in to the light well of the hotel. We believe that the fire spread vertically up the outside of the building and re-entered the building at higher floors, either through open windows or through windows that had been broken due to the heat of the fire. From there, this fire would have spread horizontally along each floor. It would only take approximately 5 minutes for each room to be totally involved in fire, and this was a continuous knock-on effect that spread room by room, floor by floor. We've examined every clue that's been made available to us, and it's actually determined that the only possible cause of this fire was through a deliberate act.
Just thinking, how could anyone do that? It made me think after that someone tried to kill us.
You can't see any point to it at all, can you? There's no reason to it at all. It's just a dreadful act for anybody even to think about.
How can you come to terms with somebody you saw nearly every minute of the day? And I think different things. I'll tell our Joan when I go home. She isn't there. She isn't there.
You can't see any point to it at all. That's what Peter's sister said. DCI Darren Lockley is here with me, so in the film there. That's the question, isn't it? When you think about arson, you just think, why? Why would somebody do this?
Well, there could be a number of reasons. But the two main reasons we're focusing on at the moment is the target of the hotel. Is that an issue? And the second is somebody there trying to communicate an emotional state of mind? Have they created a dramatic event to be the centre of attention?
What do you mean, sort of trying to be a hero at the centre of things?
Well, possibly. I mean, there were some real heroes that night. Emma and Kirsty Schofield, Peter Hughes and Lou Brissetti from the hotel staff.
Now, we saw interesting details, fascinating actually, of how the fire spread. How was it started?
Well, we now know, it's been a painstaking investigation, we now know the area we're interested in is behind this door. We know between 11:30 at night and 1:15 midnight that somebody applied a naked flame behind there and started this fire.
I mean, I'm wondering what is in the mind of somebody who does this. This is a sort of quite a concealed area, it's quite a small area. I wonder if they actually meant to cause that amount of devastation or they wanted something much smaller to get a bit of attention.
I don't think the person responsible possibly didn't foresee the speed of the fire or how quickly it took hold. It may well be that they never realised or intended to hurt anyone. But we're now in a situation where we want somebody now to come forward and assist us. They've probably been carrying this burden for some time, and we want somebody to be brave enough now to step up and say exactly what happened.
I mean, it would take a brave person to do that, to say, this happened, all right, it was misplaced, but it got out of hand. I had no idea this was going to happen, but now is the time to come clean. I'm wondering, apart from that person or those people, who else are you looking for to come forward, briefly?
Of course, it takes real guts for that person to come forward. We're still looking to somebody who's close to that person, a family member or a partner even. And again, we're still interested in anybody coming through that door between 11:30 and 15:15 midnight.
OK, Darren, thanks very much. Do call us. It's 0500 600 600, or you could call Crime Stoppers. The number for that is 0800 555 111. Or, of course, there is our website. It's our new website, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. Here it is. If you need to check anything, again, any fact that you think you've missed, then you can now watch all of our reconstructions online on our website. The site is also constantly updated, so you no longer have to wait till the next programme for news on how the cases are progressing. It even keeps you posted throughout the show on what is happening here on the phones around me tonight. We did have loads of hits on it, actually, last month. A lot of traffic. It is well worth a look. Now, with some villains caught on camera, here's Rav.
Right, here we go. So, watch closely and see if you know anyone. It's Friday afternoon back in December. We're in Ladbroke, Southampton, and the man in the black's got one thing on his mind. He's armed with a knife and he's after cash. He helps himself to £600 before jumping up and heading out. Let's see it again. Who's the witness at the counter? We need to find him. Our robber might be light on his feet, but he's not that clever. We get a good look at him on his way out. The hoodie wasn't much of a disguise, so name, please. A knock on the door at this house in Yeovil, Somerset last December. You can guess what's coming next. Bogus callers targeting the elderly. You can't get much lower than that. He claims he's from the police to install security cameras. He talks his way in, then his two mates follow. Unlucky for them, someone's already installed a camera. It's the fourth time they've targeted this house. Surely, time's up for these three cowards. A group hanging out at Hayes and Harlington Station in Middlesex in April '06. The man approaches to ask them to keep the noise down. He's travelling with his 87-year-old mum, who's waiting on the platform. What happens next is shocking. The man in the white is having none of it and gets aggressive. His mates try and restrain him, but it's no good. He breaks free and follows the passenger. While the group looks on, the passenger is attacked and stabbed 6 times on the stairs before falling onto the platform at the feet of his screaming mother. The victim suffered severe injuries and could have died. The man with the knife picks up his bike and chats with his mates. They act like nothing has happened. We need to find them fast before someone gets killed. A man taking a walk on a sunny summer's day last July in Barking. His name is Xiang Zheng and he's carrying a bag of DVDs which he's been flogging around the corner. He doesn't realise until it's too late that he's been followed by a man on a bike. He turns onto the towpath and runs. In fear for his life, he ditches the bag of DVDs. Just out of frame, moments later, the man on the bike attacks him. Afterwards, the robber casually cycles away, and he's got what he came for. 8 days later, Mr. Young died in hospital from severe head injuries, murdered for a bag of DVDs. It's hard to tell who he is from this, but chances are he's bragged about it. If you've heard anything, there's a £20,000 reward. So, know any of them? The number's on your screen. And remember, you can text us on 63399. Just type crime, space, and then your message. It's really important to leave that space or your message won't get through. And if you need a second look at tonight's CCTV, it's also on the website.
OK, thanks, Rav. The phones have certainly started ringing here. Still ahead, who murdered 17-year-old Shafilea Ahmed in Cheshire? She was missing for 5 months before her body was discovered wrapped in a carpet near Lake Windermere. There has been a lot of gossip locally as to who killed her and why they killed her. Tonight, we are going to be looking at the facts.
And I'm out in South East London on the hunt for a killer who shot a man dead without any apparent motive.
And the Rotherham Rapist, Matthew Amralawala, takes a look behind the scenes at how detectives finally caught up with him.
Now for some good news. You may remember back in September 2006, we appealed for your help to find this man seen here on CCTV. He's a violent rapist who left his victim for dead. Here's what the police knew at the time.
She'd been beaten, raped, stripped naked and left with a fractured skull, pinned between the wheels of this truck and the curb in this quiet cul-de-sac for 9 hours. You can see from this picture that it must have been a particularly violent struggle. Her shoes were found down on the pavement by the main road. Her knickers were found in the hedge, some 80 foot away from her shoes. Her bra was found on top of this hedge, and her dress was found over the other side of the hedge. And she was found here.
We appealed again the following month, and shortly after, police got the breakthrough they needed. The man in the CCTV was identified as Jakub Tomczak and traced to Poland. His DNA proved he was the attacker. Police flew to Poland to arrest him and brought him back to London. Our cameras were at Heathrow to catch his arrival.
Are you Jacob? Yes. Jacob Tomczak? OK, Jacob, I have in my possession a warrant for your arrest, and as such I'm arresting you for the rape and attempted murder of a female in Exeter in July 2006. I caution you by saying you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you fail to mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say to me may be given evidence. Do you understand? OK, thank you. These officers are now going to take you through into the custody area.
Tomczak was found guilty of rape and causing grievous bodily harm with intent, and he was given 2 life sentences.
Well, let's hope we have the same success with our next case. It dates back to October 1992, when an 18-year-old girl popped out to see her boyfriend. We've changed some of the facts to protect the victim's identity. What happened that night? Well, it's changed her life forever.
Hands off, get your own. I'm going to meet Charlie. I'm just going to get ready and go straight out.
OK, then.
Hi. Yeah, I'm leaving now. Will you meet me by the bus stop at the library? Because I don't really fancy walking to the pub by myself. All right, see you in 20 minutes. Bye. Bye, Mum.
Every time you stand at a bus stop, you think, oh my God. Every time you see a man or hear a man speak, you think, is it him, is it him? I suppose you just can't believe that, that has happened to you.
me your money or I'll kill you. Come on! All of it! And the cards! Get down there! Get down there!
After that, I was so disorientated, I just didn't know where the car was driven to. I couldn't say if it went left or right.
More money. Where'd you live?
Sherwood.
Is there anyone in?
My mum.
Is there any money in the house?
No, there's nothing.
He asked me where I'd been going and was asking me about my boyfriend and where I was going to meet him. I remember thinking at the time that I didn't want to tell the truth because he didn't want him to know anything about me, but was frightened in case somehow he would know that I was lying.
So, what's your name?
Sarah.
How old are you?
18.
Are you a student?
Yes.
I think I knew then what was going to happen.
Put your arm out.
I think I just thought I've got to grit my teeth and hope that it's over.
So what are you going to tell your boyfriend? All that's happened here is we had sex, that's all. Until he went to see a friend. What did you say your name was?
Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. You know, I haven't been with a woman for 2 years.
He'd said before that he'd been in a relationship and that he was clean and I didn't have to worry about that. I think the weirdest thing was he thought it was normal. It was a conversation between two ordinary people in ordinary circumstances.
Are you all right? Lie back down. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you.
I did start to feel hopeful that I was going to get out of it.
Has Sarah left?
Well, she hasn't turned up.
Would you mind if I do it again? Take one of your shoes off and get one of your legs out of your trousers.
I think at that point, you know, you're just so totally numb that you know, just your mind just sort of shuts off and you just think of just, you know, just let him get on with it.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Where are you taking me?
I'm going to drop you off 20 minutes from the bus stop where I picked you up.
But I wonder where I am.
You'll know. You'll be near Hooley's in the White Hart pub. You'll know it. No. Here are cards. You keep walking.
There was no way that I was going to look back. Because I thought if I looked back, he would know that I had seen him. And that would put like a whole different slant on things, because up until that point I hadn't seen his face and he knew that I couldn't identify him.
Mum!
It was at that point that it really dawned on me what had happened. And I was so frightened because I didn't know whether he would come back and try and grab me. Every car that went past, I didn't know if it was him because I hadn't seen the car. I didn't know if he was watching me. And I remember seeing my mum's car and the relief was just... Although it's something that I will never forget, I don't want it to define who I am or any relationships that I have. But if he's done that to me, what's he done to every other woman? Someone somewhere knows who it is.
They do. I'm joined by DI Jane Corrigan, an expert in the field. You've worked on a number of very high-profile rape and sexual offence cases. This one, very interesting, this dialogue. We showed a lot of that in the reconstruction, a lot of chat from him going on.
I mean, particularly the key phrase, he said Jesus, Mary and Joseph, and he's called the victim's name. He's described as having a soft Irish accent, and the other thing I think it's important is he's certainly local, or he has very good local knowledge of the area.
Yes, because he chatted about where he was going to drop her off, name-checked a couple of streets.
Right.
The other thing that was distinctive in this case, one of the things, was this green car. Now, we're showing here, it's a sort of pea green Skoda that we're showing here. Do we know it's that car?
We certainly think it's definitely linked to this. It was seen in the area at the relevant time.
He also very interestingly said, we called her Sarah there, that's not her name, but he said, so let's call her Sarah, that he hadn't had sex for 2 years. So, I mean, what does that tell us? He's been out of circulation?
Well, that takes us back to 1990. Is there a girlfriend that he had in 1990 that might be able to put these things together? It may be that he's not out of circulation for 2 years. It may be that he hasn't been able to get a girlfriend for 2 years.
There was another fascinating thing in this film that struck me the first time I watched it, which was the woman saying, she said, "I don't want it to define who I am." That struck me as an incredibly brave and very positive thing to say. Obviously, she was profoundly affected by what happened. What did you make of that?
I think any rape victim, I think they get a certain release once they report it. If they don't report it, it really stays with them. I think by reporting it, it allows them to move on, and by us looking at cold cases, it allows us to give victims some closure.
Yeah, Jane, let's talk about that for a second. You say cold cases. This cold case review, it happened in 1992. People might be watching thinking, well, you didn't get a result in 1992. Why are you going to get a result in 2008?
I think the advances in DNA technology, and we have DNA in this case, has come so far. We're now actually looking and working with the Forensic Science Service and the Home Office to look at cold cases and try and identify the offenders.
And really, what are the chances of success?
We've had really good success rate. I mean, I've certainly dealt with cases reported, 30 years later. So, I really would encourage people to come forward.
And what about if somebody has suffered a rape and they have not reported it for whatever reason, maybe good reason at the time? Would you encourage them to come forward now, briefly?
Definitely, definitely.
OK, Jane, thanks very much for joining us. Well, Crime Stoppers is offering a £5,000 reward for information leading to an arrest, a conviction. If you can help, you must call us. The number is on the screen, there it is. Or you can call Crime Stoppers direct, 0800 555 111. If you've been a victim of rape, or if you want advice on what to do following a rape, then Jane has very kindly compiled some useful advice. It's on our website. Let me remind you of the address for that. It's bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. Or, of course, for more confidential help and advice, there is the Victim Support Line. The number for that, 0845 30 30 900. Now here's Rav with some of the UK's most wanted.
OK, take a good look at this lot. First up is Ian Dixon, and he's wanted in connection with several violent robberies in Sussex, Surrey and Merseyside. Weapons including knives and firearms were used in the attacks. Dixon is 39, has a Liverpudlian accent and a tattoo of a shotgun and a skull on his right arm. He sometimes calls himself Mark, but also uses nicknames Dicko and Scouse Ian. Number 2 is Carl Hamilton, and police want to speak to him in connection with a shooting at the Workers' Rest pub in Willenhall, West Midlands. The attack took place on the 7th of July last year and 3 people were seriously injured. Police are treating it as an attempted murder. Hamilton's 21 and has connections to Wolverhampton, Birmingham and London. Stephen Burnell is my number 3 and he's wanted in connection with a series of serious sexual offences against a young girl over a 4-year period. Burnell failed to turn up at court and was convicted in his absence. He was sentenced to 6 years. Now we need to find him. He's 53 and has red hair and a tattoo of a Black Panther on his left arm and the words "Do or Die" on his right. And number 4 is Michael Kenny. He was charged with 6 burglaries in November. He'd stolen more than £35,000 worth of art and antiques from houses across Yorkshire. Halfway through the trial, Kenny skipped bail and went on the run. He was found guilty in his absence and sentenced to 8 years in prison. Kenny's 47 and has connections to Finchley in London and Hartlepool. So, do you know where they are tonight? Then don't wait, phone or text, and the number is there on your screen.
OK, we can hear them. The phones are very busy. Don't know if you can hear them. We've had 2 of the same name for the Hayes stabbing and also that Yeovil destruction burglary that you saw. People calling in again. 2 people calling in with the same name. So that's good news. We'll keep you updated. It is time now for a case that is done and dusted. A look behind the scenes at how police finally got their man. Tell us a little bit about tonight's story, Matthew.
Kirsty, this is the case of the Rotherham Rapist, a series of horrific attacks from 2 decades ago. And it was one of those cases that really frustrated detectives. And for victims, they must have thought it would never be solved.
Yeah.
But you know, the science behind these investigations these days, it is moving at such speed, and that proved absolutely crucial in solving this case. Just have a look at this.
£5.50, please, love.
Cheers, mate.
In the mid-80s, a serial rapist was prowling the streets of South Yorkshire, attacking defenceless women as they walked home at night. Over the course of 4 years, he attacked at least 6 women around Rotherham and Barnsley, carrying stockings and tights to use as a mask and to tie up his victims. He lay in wait for lone women returning from pubs or clubs, pouncing from behind and dragging them into secluded areas to carry out sex attacks.
In 1983, when they started, the lady was an elderly lady who the offender would have assumed he could overpower quite easily. Her own stockings were used to tie her up. Her own knickers were used as a gag for her. By the time we got to the next offences, the person being attacked was much younger. The offender was actually bringing things with him in order to tie up and gag the victims. Through to the last offence where the offender actually had a knife with him, so they were getting much more serious as the offences progressed.
But something else linked these attacks, and it would prove to be a vital clue. After every assault, he took a trophy from his victim. He would steal their shoes. On one occasion, he even took time to go back and retrieve a shoe that had fallen off as he grabbed his victim, and only began to sexually assault her once he'd put it back onto her foot.
We were aware that we had an offender here who appeared to have some sort of fetish around the stiletto shoes, and there were such horrible, horrible attacks, you know, to drag a woman away, to tie her up, to degrade her in this way. So we were under massive pressure to detect them.
But the team never got a breakthrough, and gradually the case was wound down. But investigations are never closed, and by 2001, developments in scientific analysis and DNA profiling had given the team new hope. Exhibits had been kept since the 80s, and these provided a full DNA profile of the shoe rapist. But there was no match on the national DNA database, so officers turned to Crimewatch.
Have you any idea who this man was or is?
A series of aged photo fits were produced to show what the rapist might have looked like through different stages of his life. Viewers suggested over 100 names, but still no concrete leads.
Where is he now? Still offending somewhere or living an ordinary life?
To then revisit it in 2001 and find we'd actually got the offender's DNA and have the Crimewatch appearance and all the calls that came as a result of Crimewatch and still not be able to identify the offender was soul-destroying, really.
But technology continued to evolve, and only 2 years later, officers had another new avenue to pursue, something called familial DNA. It works on the basis that family members have similar DNA, and that whilst an offender might not be on the national database, one of their relatives might be. Find a relative, and that might lead you to the offender. The team had a substantial list of people they needed to trace and eliminate, but they got a stroke of luck. The third person they visited was a woman whose DNA had been taken after a motoring offence some years earlier.
Hello, madam. South Yorks Police. Can I ask you a few questions?
Well, what's it about?
She had a brother the same age as the shoe rapist.
OK, then, come in. Just down on your left.
She said, yeah, I do have a brother, but it'll not be him because he's a businessman, he's well respected, he's never been in any trouble with the police. And so she said, I'll give you his details, but it'll be a waste of your time.
Jimmy, hi, it's me. Hey, you'll never guess what's happened. I've just had the police round. Apparently, my DNA is similar to some rapist in the 80s. They wanted me to get in touch with you because they want to come round and take a sample.
Yeah.
Right. See you.
Dad. Dad, it's Jimmy. Listen, I want you to promise me something. Promise me you'll look after the kids. No, just listen, Dad. I've done some really bad things. And they've caught up with me. There's no way out. Just look after the kids.
His son arrived home just in time. He pulled his father down and called an ambulance. When they got to the hospital, the police were waiting.
What we know now is that he'd been watching the advances in DNA, monitoring the case and where the case was going, and he knew at this stage, obviously, the game was up.
His name was James Lloyd. The similarity between him and the photo fits compiled years before is uncanny, yet no one suspected Lloyd. He appeared to be a pillar of society, a committed family man with a wife and 3 children.
Haven't really got time.
At the time of his arrest, he was the manager of a print company, having worked his way up after joining as an apprentice in the 70s. His family and friends described him as a workaholic who had to be dragged away from his office at night. But behind this respectable facade, for years he'd been concealing a dark secret, a violent past that he thought he'd got away with. And were it not for advances in DNA, this double life might never have been exposed.
Suddenly there it was, the offence that had baffled everybody for all these years, and he was there in the cells waiting for us. As a detective, it was fantastic for me and my team, but for the women, you know, we knew exactly what that was going to mean to them, and that was just massive.
But detectives still had one more disturbing discovery to make. A secret compartment hidden in the floor of Lloyd's office.
Inside it, police found 126 stiletto shoes, many of them in pairs. But where did Lloyd get them from? Do some of them represent other victims that didn't come forward? The police don't know. What they do know is after 20 years, they got their man.
That's extraordinary. Even the photo fit was extraordinary. How long did he get? What was the sentence?
Well, the evidence, as you saw, was overwhelming. So when it got to trial, he pleaded guilty and he was sentenced to 30 years. And we're told that is one of the longest sentences ever for this type of crime. So he's been put away for a very long time.
It all stopped in 1986. I mean, you've been speaking to the experts, the detectives who worked on the case. Did they say anything about why it suddenly stopped?
Yeah, it did, and it puzzled detectives. They went through all of the possibilities. Perhaps he'd moved abroad, perhaps he'd died, perhaps he was in prison for another crime. But actually, it turned out to be none of those things. Around this time, he'd got married, so perhaps, somehow, something had changed. What I really liked, though, Kirsty, about this investigation was somehow he was almost trying to reinvent his whole life after he'd got married. And given the length of time, he probably thought he wouldn't get caught. But the DNA was to prove him wrong, and the police got him.
Yeah, science caught up with him. Incredible story. Now, here is Rav with some more good news following last month's show.
Now, for the last 2 months, we've been appealing for your help to catch this man, William Cannon, and his partner, Angela Edwards. RSPCA inspectors wanted to speak to them about animal cruelty. 34 cats and 7 dogs were found crammed into this tiny caravan. After our first appeal in December, the RSPCA got a tip-off that the couple were at a campsite in York. But when they got there, the pair had moved on. We appealed again last month, and as a direct result of a Crimewatch viewer, the pair were traced to a campsite in West Yorkshire. Cannon and Edwards have now been convicted of animal cruelty and sent to prison.
Thanks, Rav. It's 6 months since the tragic murder of 11-year-old Rhys Jones in Liverpool. You'll remember, of course, he was shot in broad daylight on his way home from playing football with his mates. We reconstructed the case at the time. Today, police have revealed that they think they have found the murder weapon. Very significant. Forensic tests are underway. Detectives are also appealing for information on the bike that was used by his killer. It is a specialised hard rock mountain bike. There it is. Looks just like this one. Probably dumped after the shooting. Have you seen it? Indeed, if you can help in any way, the number is there. It's up on the screen now. Our next case is the cold-blooded murder of 17-year-old Shafilea Ahmed. Someone wanted her to simply disappear for good without trace. It's clear whoever killed Shafilea wasn't expecting her body to be found, but it was. And as a result, detectives and leading forensic experts have carefully pieced together vital clues. We now know quite a lot about what happened. We're aware there has been loads of speculation about who did it, why they did it. Tonight we are dealing just in the facts. So if you can help with any aspect of what you're about to see, it is imperative that you do call us. Detective Superintendent Geraint Jones takes us through what happened.
Almost exactly 4 years ago, the body of murdered schoolgirl Shafilea Ahmed was found here, dumped in the undergrowth by the banks of the River Kent near Lake Windermere. She'd been missing from home for 5 months. Shafilea was an innocent 17-year-old schoolgirl with a whole life ahead of her. Someone has taken that life away, and I want to know why.
We literally just laughed all the time. You know, there wasn't much. We'd have serious conversation, but we'd always, even serious conversation, I'd always end up with laughing.
She's the sort of pupil that you just want to come across as a teacher, really. She just worked really, really hard, and she was really helpful, and she was kind. She was just lovely.
My favourite memory of Shaf's personality was probably a laugh, because it was just that contagious, and I can still hear it now.
She had like a really wicked sense of humour. She'd really, you know, really sharp. She'd really take the mickey out of you, and she had like this really sort of dirty laugh.
She was like very much a distraction, but always a good one, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But at the same time, was always able to achieve whatever she wanted at school.
She was just an angel to teach. She was just so keen to learn.
She wanted to be a lawyer, and she would have achieved that, definitely. She was so determined.
By the time she got to doing her GCSEs, she was achieving some really good grades, and her future looked really bright.
She was interested in shopping like any other teenager.
And we would talk about boys, as teenagers do, you know, the latest crush and whatnot. If you ever were feeling down, she would just bring you up.
She just had the ability to turn around every negative situation into something positive, you know, just help with any situation that we had that was troubling us.
At the time of her disappearance, Shafilea had a part-time job at the CPM call centre near her home in Warrington.
Would you have 5 minutes to have a chat at all? OK, brilliant.
On the night of September the 11th, 2003, she left here as normal after working a 4-hour shift.
OK, brilliant.
It was the last time we know of anyone seeing her alive.
I work on the highways, and on that particular morning, because of the heavy rain, we were told to go out and check for floods on the roads.
I just want to check the water level.
I was just wandering about, and I was gazing in the river. And I just looked to my left, and I saw something which took my eye. I'll never know why, but it did. When I first saw it, I thought it looked like butcher's meat.
Oh, my God. Lads!
And as we stood and looked at it, the true reality of what we had found was evident.
I think one of us needs to go back to the van and phone the police.
The men had found the largely skeletal remains of a young female. The corpse was so badly decomposed, it could only be identified using dental records and DNA testing. After 3 weeks of analysis, we got confirmation that the body was Shafilaa's. It had been dumped over 90 miles from where she'd last been seen outside her work in Warrington.
Nobody wanted to believe that this could be her that had been found. You just never would think anything that tragic would happen to somebody you love, really.
There's no evidence this was a sexual attack. Her skeleton showed no sign of broken bones or any kind of blunt trauma, so the most likely cause of death was strangulation or smothering. Although she was found in the clothes she went to work in, all other identifying property was missing. Whoever killed her wanted it to be as difficult as possible to identify her. In my view, this rules out an attack by a stranger. We also think her body was wrapped in something, either a carpet or a piece of tarpaulin. We have no way of knowing exactly where she was killed, but we know it wasn't in the area she was found. Her body must have been driven there, so it's possible she was killed inside the vehicle used. As one of the most remote places in the UK, the Lake District must seem a logical place to conceal a body. The more isolated the spot, the less likely the discovery. But we don't think that whoever murdered Shafilea had good knowledge of the area. To get here, you simply take the first junction signpost of the Lake District, then take the first exit off the roundabout and stop at the first lay-by. Shafilea was tossed away like a piece of meat, concealed in the undergrowth and left to rot. The killer's intention was clear. They didn't want her body to be found.
When I think about Shafilea, the thing I miss most probably is just think of her smile. She had such a lovely smile, such a lovely infectious laugh, and just such a positive attitude to life.
For somebody as young as Shaf and who had so much going for her, something so horrific to happen to such a young person who had so much to offer was just completely wrong. The best friend that we could have asked for. She's just missed so much.
I just can't believe that anyone would want to hurt her. What possible reason they could have for doing that? Because she was just an angel.
It's been over 4 years now, and we still haven't got justice for Shafilea. Now is the time for that to change.
Well, with me now is Detective Superintendent Geraint Jones. You think not a stranger, importantly.
That's right. Clearly someone has gone into some length to dispose of Shafelea's body. I can't see that being a stranger. Someone connected to Shafilea has done that.
And that's because they got rid of all the identifying things that people automatically could have associated with her home life and where she lived and all of those associating bits of paraphernalia. And you also think from the film that they didn't do it on their own.
That's right. Someone may have killed Shafilea on his or her own, but I suspect that maybe several people are involved in this. But certainly getting rid of a body in that location, in that fashion, suggests to me that there's more than one person involved in this.
What about the location? That's quite important. Can you just recap on where it was? And, I mean, people might have seen something being dumped.
That's right. It's Force Bridge is the location, which is outside the village of Sedgwick, just off the M6 motorway. And it's going back to September 2003, around the time of the Westmoreland show. Someone may have seen the offender actually disposing of Shafelea's body. So anyone acting suspiciously in that location, we want to know about.
We certainly do. And, I mean, we showed a white van. They're everywhere. You think it is a white van?
Yeah, there's been a significant sighting of a white van just at that scene. What we're interested in is someone who has a white van who actually may have been connected to Shafilea at that time, back in September 2003, or someone who was there, you know, fly tipping, or there innocently. We also want to hear from that person as well.
Geraint, what's your appeal tonight? I mean, there's been huge publicity that has surrounded the case of this beautiful young girl. What is your appeal tonight to people watching?
My appeal is, first of all, for the killer. The killer has blood on his or her hands. People helping the killer or killers have got blood on their conscience. And someone out there needs to do the honourable thing and come forward and bring justice for Shafilea.
They do. You can call us here. The number is up on the screen now. You could call Crime Stoppers anonymously. That would be 0800 555 111, 0800 555 111. If you want to speak to somebody in Punjabi, then you can call the instant room. Let me give you the number for that. 0845 458 0000. Now, with more faces in the frame, here's Rav.
Right, let's see if you know any of this lot. This is number 5, and it's Tashak Dawkins. He's wanted in connection with an assault in South Woodford, Birmingham, in March last year. Dawkins is 28, has a gold front tooth, and may be also known as Tash or Shak. He's originally from Birmingham, but has connections to London. He's dangerous and should not be approached. 6 is Tariq Aziz, and he's wanted in connection with a rape in Warwick in December 2006. Aziz is 32, originally from Kurdish Iran, and has connections to Leamington Spa, Coventry and Birmingham. And Babar Khan is number 7. Police want to speak to him about an attack on a shopkeeper at an off-licence in Blackburn in November. Khan's 44 and has links to Manchester, Birmingham and London. Now, you might recognise number 8. We showed him before stealing charity boxes in banks and building societies across the country. Seriously, how low can you get? After our appeal, we got a name for him, and that's Derek Matthews. He's now wanted in connection with around 100 offences. He uses numerous aliases, including Stephen Grimes, Paul Simpson and Peter Weems. So, get dialing. The number is there on your screen, or remember you can text us on 63399, just type crime for that space, and then your message.
Thanks, Rav. What a bunch they were. Now, Wayne Terry was one of our most wanted last month. Police needed to speak to him about drug offences. After a crucial call into the instant room, Terry was arrested the following day. He's been charged with conspiracy to produce cocaine. He's now in custody. Also last month, we reconstructed how a jeweller, he risked his life when gold jewellery worth £75,000 was snatched from his car.
Oh. Hey! Hey, stop! Stop! Hey! Stop! Stop! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Hey! Hey! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Hey! Hey! Get off! Do that! Get off! Get off! Do it!
He was lucky to survive. Well, since we showed that, police have uncovered a number of similar cases across the country. They may be connected. Tonight, though, we still need you to come forward if you witnessed the robbery or you recognise this e-fit of the robber. He's Indian or Asian, between 35 and 45. He's 5'8", 5'10", quite stocky with a round face, possibly a moustache. He was wearing a dark suit. Our next case, well, it's baffling. Moses Sendawala was a 41-year-old father of 3, did a lot of voluntary work. People say they respected him. So why would someone shoot him dead as he walked through a park?
I'm here in Burgess Park, Camberwell, South London, and what we're looking at is a murder that took place last September. Now, most of the time, police know what's behind crimes like this, but it's not the case with this one. It's a complete mystery.
Moses lived at a friend's house just around the corner from Burgess Park. He left there sometime after 9 that Friday evening. He didn't say where he was going, or if he was going to meet someone. At around midnight, we know he was walking along the path parallel to St George's Way. Why was he out here? Was someone watching him? Was someone waiting for him?
He was hit twice, once in the back and once in the neck. He didn't stand a chance and died almost immediately. His body was found here, minutes later, by a passerby. The killer was nowhere to be seen.
Moses was a loving person and he cared a lot about people, especially the youth. So it was basically he wanted to be a good role model for youngsters. I think my life ended with Moses. I lost a friend. I didn't just lose a partner, I lost a friend. Everything you've got in your life just destroys everything. All your dreams, all
All I could have wished was my daughter to grow up with a father. With a father. That's all I could have wished.
Moses' murder is baffling. It doesn't look like a robbery, so why was he targeted? Was he involved in something that we don't know about? Was it a tragic case of mistaken identity? If you can shed any light on this, we need to hear from you.
Well, someone watching must be able to answer those questions. If it is you, please call us here in the studio, 0500 600 600. Now, just a moment for a quick roundup of what's been happening on the phones, Rav.
Very quickly, we have some great stuff on the CCTV, and I'll tell you more of that in the update programme to come. Newquay arson, remember, destroyed that old building. 3 people lost their lives. Some really good calls there. And speaking of detectives, there's some good leads that they're following up. Now, the Nottingham cold case rape goes back to 1992. Some great stuff there, including 5 names for the attacker and a cracking lead on that green Skoda that they desperately want to trace. So that looks fantastic. If you can help with any of our cases, please do give us a call.
Thanks, Rav. Just to tell you about a Crimewatch special that's coming up in March. For the past 6 months, our cameras have been given unprecedented access to live police investigations. We've captured the fight against gun crime out on the streets, drug smugglers at sea, even paedophiles online. We've filmed the raids, we've filmed the arrests. Here's a sneak preview.
Links, action links. Cocaine in the UK is a huge problem.
Yeah, come on, I need this taxi pulling.
He's found a grenade and a handgun.
We're arresting you on suspicion of downloading indecent images of children.
It's a good day for the cops so far today.
Good stuff, that's worth putting in the diary. Crimewatch on the streets, Monday the 17th of March at 9 o'clock here on BBC One. Well, our phone lines are open until midnight tonight and from 7:30 in the morning. Crimewatch is going to be back on Monday the 31st of March. Don't go away though, because we are back after the news with a full update on what's been happening on the phones, and they have been busy. If you can help but haven't called yet, please don't just sit there on the sofa thinking it's somebody else's responsibility. They can call in. It could be down to you. Pick up the phone now. I'm going to see you at 10:40. Bye-bye.
Kirsty Young's Castaway on Desert Island Discs this Friday morning is stem cell scientist and Nobel Prize winner Professor Martin Evans. Hear his choice of music from 9 on BBC Radio 4, 92 to 95 FM, or listen again online.
All fur coat and no knickers, that one.
You, this bloke, whoever he is, he's a nutter. He's cleansing society of these impure women, and we have to stop him before he kills again.
You've got about as much chance of convincing this jury as Michael Foot has of becoming Prime Minister.
Ashes to Ashes, tomorrow at 9 on BBC One. And if you missed the last episode, it's available now on BBC iPlayer.
What's so special about Dr. Yazid Anwar?
I have to see her again! I just have to see her again one more time! I just have to!
I want to know who you are and what you want.
The conspiracy continues. The Last Enemy, Sunday at 9 on BBC One. And if you missed the last episode, it's available now on BBC iPlayer.
This is BBC One. Now the 10 o'clock news with Hugh Edwards and Louisa Preston.
The new challenges for those migrants wanting to become British citizens. Those